Well, welcome back, everyone. Lights, camera, action. You know this is the weekly show, Make Our World Your Runway, that interviews the most fascinating individuals from the world of modeling, pageantry, beauty, fashion, business, and even the entertainment industry. And as always, we have another dynamic show planned for you this week. But before we get on to our show, we always like to thank the sponsors that make this show so possible every week. And that is the Global Trade Chamber, 100 Successful Women in Business, Carlos Ibiza Photography, Lux Salon, Queen Beauty Network, the Tower Club, Royal Danes, Vita Designs, and Casa Calabria. So sponsors, thank you so much for making this show possible. And as always, I tell everyone to make sure that besides tuning into my show, you tune into Success Stories. Because Success Stories, you're going to hear the most amazing women that have had humble beginnings, and they have become some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. So I highly recommend that everyone tune into Success Stories, because once again, you're going to hear these fantastic stories from women that came from humble beginnings and worked themselves up to becoming wonderful business leaders, not only in the United States, but around the world. And of course, we always want to tell you to get ready for some exciting conferences that 100 Successful Women in Business and the Global Trade Chamber will be coming to a city near you. And the next city we're going to come to is going to be Boca Raton, Florida. That's going to be January 30th. It is going to be the Embassy Suites by Hilton Hotel. This is going to be another amazing Women in Business conference. And I highly tell you to make sure that you register for this show now. These shows are always a sellout. Whether you want to be an exhibitor, you want to be a speaker, or you want to attend. Now to attend, it is for free. But again, you must register for the show. So please go to the website at www.100swb.com for all the information. Once again, remember to go to the website and sign up. These shows are a sellout. We just did the big conference in Miami. It was absolutely amazing. Over 100 women became 100 Successful Women in Business leaders. It is absolutely great. So whether you want to promote your own business, you want to take your business to the next level, or even find out what other businesses there are and how you can work with them, this is a show for you. So once again, please go to the website, www.100swb.com for all the information. And you can also go to the website of the Global Trade Chamber, which is www.globaltradechamber.com. So I hope to see you there January 30th, Embassy Suites by Hilton Hotel in Boca Raton, Florida. And also, Make Our World Your Runway will be there. We'll be able to interview you. You'll be able to get a live show while you're on the premises. So I look forward to seeing you then. And now we are on to our show. And we have got a spectacular, spectacular guest. This woman has been a pastor, an apostle, entrepreneur, community advocate, and she's the mother of 3 amazing sons. She's a great entrepreneurship leader, and she's a visionary and community builder dedicated to uplifting lives. She has helped thousands of individuals find employment, providing stability and hope for families throughout the region. Started in January of 2012 was the Janitorial Service Staff Builders LLC. In March of 2023, she launched her luxury perfume line, The Rich Queen, a brand symbolizing elegance, empowerment, and inner strength. Her business journey reflects innovation, compassion, and a commitment to helping others succeed. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Carnetta Frazier. Meet Lady Frazier, and as I like to say, welcome Rich Queen. So welcome to Make Our World Your Runway. Hello there, Lady Frazier.
Hello, Angela. How are you?
Can you see us? Because I think there you go. Okay. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I am awesome, and I just want to thank you for having me on your fabulous show.
Well, thank you for being part of my fabulous show. I know you've taken time out of this unbelievable busy schedule that you have, okay? You look amazing as always. And the first thing I want to ask you, how do you feel now being a 100 Successful Women in Business honoree?
When I tell you, Angela, this was an amazing experience. And what I really loved about it, they see us so many times as a woman, period, with all the responsibilities we have. So many times it's like we're not there. We're moms, we're caregivers. Oh my God. And let's not even talk about business. So as a result, I felt inspired,
Yes.
seen. I received a wonderful, wonderful sisterhood that I will continue to follow up with. And it was just an awesome, awesome opportunity.
Yes, it was. I know when I got my award shouldn't say many years ago, but a few years ago in Pembroke Pines, I have still kept in touch with all the ladies that were there. When I was in
Yes.
London, England, I still keep in touch with a lot of the women that were in England with us. And now, this show here, I just thought was over the top, absolutely fabulous. You and I will be staying in touch. I've got a lot of other ladies now that are trying to break down my door to get on the show. So I said, no problem. It was a great sisterhood. Like you said, we were seen. You were able to walk a runway. And, you know, it was a great honor for me to stand on that stage and read everyone's bios.
Oh, you did a phenomenal job. I tell you, it was awesome.
Thank you. I was just hoping I wasn't going to pass out with all those lights, but you know what? A little bit of water, and I was ready to go. But you did a fabulous job, and I mean all the things that you do. I mean, you've even got your own YouTube podcast, Embracing Love Again, which
Yes.
uplifts widows and widowers. Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my husband passed 5 years ago. And, I haven't been on a date. And I know, right? And it just came to me, you know, no, I didn't see anything that could help me to even get through the transition, to let me know it was okay to grieve. And then after some time, you might want to embrace love again. And that's the name of the podcast, Embracing Love Again. And it's just a safe space to help widows, widowers to come together, maybe even find love again. Because, Angela, when you really truly love, you want to love again. So that's why we started the podcast. And I've had some widows, and I hadn't did it in a while, but I'm going to get back to it. I even did a journal, a 30-day journal on things that you deal with as a widow. That first year, oh my God, that first year, the first birthdays, the first Christmas, all these
Yes.
things, it's a challenge. So it's just a safe space for women and men to come together.
It is. You know, it's so funny you should mention something like that because my husband had called me this morning, and a very good friend that works with him passed away. He had suffered a really bad heart attack, and he just couldn't survive, okay? He had been in the hospital for at least 2 weeks, and he was going to be 86 years old. And I said to my husband, I said, Al, I said, you're very lucky. And the fact that my husband was in the military, I said, you had to have a valve replaced. I said, you could have died right on that table. I said, but you still got your 2 feet on the ground. And I always think about that. I always say, oh my God, if he's not around, what am I going to do? You know, I saw my mother go through it, but then my mother came to live with my husband and she lived with us for 15 years until she passed last year. So it was a little bit of an easier transition for her. Even though a lot of her family was still in Jersey, she had myself, she had my husband, and she had the 2 cats, which she got very close with one of them. Okay, so for her it was a little bit easier. But you're right, if someone's alone, that birthday, that first Christmas, that first anniversary.
Yes.
And I always say to myself, geez, would I be able to love again? You know, my husband tells me, no, that's it. You're it. I don't think I could love again. I said, you say that now. I said, but as years go on, you may want a companion. You may want to love again. And I think, though, it's more with women than it is with men. Sometimes they could go a little bit longer. But women, we need that companionship.
Well, Angela, I'm gonna be honest with you. The widowers that I've known, they've already married again.
Same here.
That's the truth. I mean, and it was amazing because I'm like, well, can the men move on faster than we can? And I think this is just my opinion. From what I've seen, I believe the men, because they rely on us so much. Not that we don't rely on them, but women, we have more to do, dealing with the children, dealing with your job, dealing with your business. And not that they don't, but we're more emotionally involved. And all the ones that I know, they were either engaged or and we're talking about some of them within a year, and I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think, no judgment, you know
No.
um my thing is I want people to be happy,
Right.
if you find someone that love you and honor you, that's key, you know
Yeah, that is the key. I always tell my husband, I said, no, I said, what you need, if anything happens to me, is a maid. And he says, what do you mean? I said, well, I said, you can cook to some degree, but you need somebody to cook. You need somebody to clean. You need somebody to do the laundry. I said, you're not going to stay here and do all that by yourself. He said, well, when you were sick not too long ago, I did it. I said, that was one thing. You knew I was coming back. I said, I was only in the hospital for a few days. I said, because once I came back, I took over. I said, but he always says to me, oh, I can handle it. I said, no, you can't. That's what I tell him all the time. I go, no,
and
I
then we're
said,
not even talking about the loneliness, you know
that's the,
that's a whole nother my goodness, that's a whole nother ball game.
it is. And I see that with my husband's job because last night, he works like every other Sunday because he works for a dealership. He should have been home the latest 6:30, maybe 6:45, because the dealership is only open until 6. Well, they had a customer that came in a little late. They had to do a lot of paperwork. And he didn't get home till almost 9 o'clock. And I'm sitting there. The cat drives me crazy because the cat kind of knows the schedule. She knows the schedule. And I'm sitting there saying, I've been here all day. So after a while, you kind of, even though I know my husband's at work, you say to yourself, geez, can you imagine if that person didn't walk through the door? So you're right on that. No,
Yeah.
you're right on that. And I mean, there was like one day last week, he didn't get home till midnight. And I'm like,
What?
yeah, it's that, and that can happen. So, it's like, after a while you say to yourself, geez, it's almost like I'm being on my own because of the crazy hours that he works. That's why that event in Miami, I said to him, I said, you're taking vacation time. I'm dragging you out for 3 days.
And he probably needed it.
He did. Oh, he loved it. He loved stuff like that because when his former job, when he worked for Cable and Wireless in New York City, all they did was trade shows. I mean, they had their time in the office where they sold, but most of their sales came out of trade shows. He loved it. That's why they used to send him all the time because he would meander all around, and they used to say, he's the one. I said, oh yeah, I said, he's got that gift to give. So
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
But I'm glad that you started something like that because I got to remember that. That is a great organization because, like it says here, wisdom for life after loss, messages of encouragement, tools to dream and love again, and really transition into a new beginning.
Absolutely. Because it is the new life, and I've seen so many, if there's some women, they depend on that spouse, that husband. And when they're gone, they're just lost.
Yes.
He took care of the bills, he paid everything, he made things happen, and they're lost, and they need that comfort, that space, like, you're not by yourself.
Well, that's
Someone else
it.
is with you.
That's it. That's why my husband and I, we kind of share things in the house. I mean, most of the time I'll write out the bills. And it's so funny, I have a saying, when he gets his check, I go, thank you, Angela. And he goes, wait a minute, you didn't work for it. I said, you came in the house? Thank you, Angela. I said, because I start this year. Yeah, we laugh at that all the time. He said, everything is thank you, Angela. I said, yeah, it is. I said, so, but you're right. A lot of women do depend on a man to do the bills, take care of most of the things.
Even the cutting the grass. or whatever. It's just, it's an adjustment.
Yeah, and you know it's so funny because that's what I think kept my mother going till 94, and I admired her. Because my dad had taken very, very sick in 1970. My dad unfortunately had to have brain surgery. He came back a good 98%, but my mother, for at least a year to year and a half, had to learn to run everything. Now, thank God her sisters and her brothers were right there and helped out. But that, she was always a strong person, but I think that made her stronger. And from that point on, my mother became the head of the household.
Yeah.
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 She just took over. She was like a freight train, okay?
Yeah.
And my cousin and I were just talking about it the other day. She said, yep, we had a nickname for her, Annie Oakley. I said, yeah, Annie Oakley, get your gun. That was my mother, okay? Tough SOB. She, at 94, could still get on her hands and knees and scrub a bathroom floor.
Amazing.
Right?
Wow.
She was driving a car until she was 93. Yeah. I mean,
That
this
is
was,
so amazing.
but I mean, and she took care of my father. I mean, she really nursed him back to health. She was totally hands-on. And I looked at that, I said, no wonder why she went to 94. Because she knew she had to, be out there, her strength. And she just took the bull by the horns and just, she did what she had to do.
That's good stuff.
Oh yeah, a lot of good stuff. And I said, if I ever had to mentor people, that's the first thing I would tell them. Is learn to be independent, because you never know when something's going to happen.
I mean, in an instant, your life can change. You
Oh
know,
my God.
and it's scary to think about, but it's something to think about.
Yes, you have to. I know it's something very scary, but you have to think about it. You have to plan for it
Absolutely.
and say, okay. It's like this 3-1 Atlas that is out in outer space and they're still tracking. I said, yeah, when it hits Earth, we could all be gone tomorrow. So I always tell people, if my feet are dangling in outer space tomorrow, it's not going to surprise me. I said, because you never know what's going to happen. But speaking of all of that, let's get into your fragrance business, because that is absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, it's called Rich Queen Collections, and my website is richqueen.org. And
Yeah.
here's the thing with that. I've always wanted my perfume line, but just like anything else, what do I do? Where do I go? And there was a lady in my church. She was a chemist. So she knew how to put things together. However, that's all she did. So I was visiting in Detroit with a friend of mine, just supporting her. She had an event, and there I met Dr. Jacqueline Hatnot. I met her, and I didn't know I was going to a perfume launch. I was just supporting. We flew out from Atlanta, went to Detroit, and I met her. She was doing a perfume launch for another lady. And when I met her, when I tell you, Angela, it was like a kindred spirit. We just connected so well. And she told me what she did. She told me everything. She gave me the prices. But this was the key. The key word was, I'll work with your budget. I'm like, let's go. So that's what happened. We went back and forth because she's in Kansas City. I'm in Atlanta. So we went back and forth going on. I'm like, no, not this one. I don't like that one. Well, we finally got it right. And when we got it right, I have the bath oil, I'm sorry, the body wash, the
Yes.
mist, the lotion, and that bath salt. Angela, I cannot even keep the bath salt. It's so good. And what I love about all of it, it's organic. You know, um, I don't know, you might not have paid attention, but I do have a skin disease here. And with this, regular perfume would irritate my body or irritate my
Yes.
neck. I just couldn't wear anything. But I'm so grateful for divine connection. best way I could put it. And with Dr. Jacqueline Hadnot. And I met her in 22 and around July, August. We did my perfume launch March in 23. And
Wow.
when I tell you, the support was off the chain. So I love it. It's a great.
Right?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It was absolutely. In fact, my cat loved it because she trying to get her nose over there, and I said, Jada, goodbye. I said,
With the cat.
the cat. Oh God, she loved that. When I get my hair colored, she sleeps on top of my head so she can sniff that. She's a real little lady, this Jada. She's something.
I love it. I love
But
it.
that is great that you started something like that. And I'll be honest with you, when I worked for Bergdorf Goodman many years ago in New York City, okay, there was a skincare line actually called Discipline Cosmetics. It was developed by the same people that did the Paco Rabanne fragrance. Now, you would never think that a fragrance company would put out a skincare line. This skincare was so good, okay, and all right, it didn't have the name like the Lancomes and the Waters, but when they put me on it, I just went off the chain and really promoted it. Okay, I started giving out samples all over the place. I had gotten a bad infection in my finger, and the doctors couldn't figure out what this was. But they don't know if I touched something. But I put this particular face cream on my finger. In 3 days, it was totally healed.
Amazing.
You can't get it anymore because the company doesn't make it. And the gentleman who developed it, Dr. Fernando Alou, because he was a doctor, okay, and he was in competition with Dr. Laszlo, who had Laszlo Cosmetics. But
That's amazing.
this was amazing, okay, because
Wow.
all right, it was a little bit pricey, but it could really heal your skin. Okay, and I would put this stuff on faithfully on my face in the morning and at night, and I'd look in the mirror and say, geez, I can't even find a little wrinkle. So, yeah, it depends.
That's amazing. Yeah, it makes a difference.
Like you just had said, you had a great person that developed your fragrance. Well, we had a great person that developed that, okay? And then later on, I went to work for Lancome, and they started, with that happened, all the companies started coming out with products that could just cure anything.
Wow. Isn't that something? So they was the trailblazer.
Yeah, that company was a trailblazer. And here was the thing, when I worked for Bergdorf Goodman, they brought in Dr. Fauci to actually give us a course on what is in these products. And that's how I learned about the first 5 ingredients. And that's where I also learned how to ask women about, are you on medication? Are you on a blood thinner? Are you on this or that?
Yes.
Because you had to know what was going to work with what they were on. So that was a good education that I got.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like, yeah. And you was asking the right questions because all of those things are so important when we're dealing with chemicals. One of the things
Right.
that I learned when Dr. Hatnot started putting my fragrance together, the base of the perfume have to, I believe it's 6 weeks, have to ferment or whatever, just be
Right.
still. Yeah. And I never knew that, but it was a great experience. Um, and I'm still doing really pretty good. I have 2 boutiques in Roswell, Georgia, and we
Wow.
have it there. Yeah, we actually have it there on site, but you can always go to the website, order it, and we'll ship it out.
Yeah, that's great. I gotta try that body wash. That's my next. I gotta go to the website and get that. I love stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see
that
you,
that would be great. Yeah, and if you're in a couple of boutiques, that's even better.
Yes, yes, because well, in the boutique we have the perfume, and then I have clothes because, of course, it's named Rich Queen, so everything's on the high end. Evening gowns, all type of evening gowns for younger women, mature women, however you want it, just whatever style, from long dresses to short dresses. So, yeah, I'm grateful for what this journey has been for me.
And you just said something that reminded me. because when I worked for Nordstrom's, we used to work with a lot of personal shoppers, same thing in Bergdorf Goodman. And one of the things that I had learned was, and just like you said, long dresses, short dresses, you know, the jewelry, everything was there. We used to almost match up the perfumes back then that we were working with in the stores to what that particular gown or dress or occasion that woman was going to go to. And yeah, and it was very interesting because now you had the complete ensemble.
Wow.
So they would bring us in to do the makeovers. I would get these personal shoppers that would say, look, this woman's going to such and such a gala. This is what we're putting her in. What would you suggest? And then we'd go to the fragrance department and say, okay, it's this type of gala, it's this type of event. You need something a little more sensual, or you need something that's really going to knock them off their feet when you come through the door. So we learned how to put that all together. And what you're doing is almost like being a personal shopper.
Wow. Wow. That's something.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, because once you do that, you won't be able to keep the door closed. All right. And it's so funny because a friend of mine who wanted to get into fashion, I said, look, Nordstrom is always hiring personal shoppers. I said, start there, because that's where you learn your craft. You will get a customer base. And a lot of these women that go for personal shoppers, if they like the person that's working on them, they'll call you up for the next event. That's how I actually started my own salon. These women used to love what I do. That I had eventually left the cosmetic industry and went out on my own, because Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I was busy.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very busy doing makeovers or coordinating weddings. So, yeah, you just reminded me, you really are that. Now that name fits, Ridge Queen. You are a personal shopper when you just said what you said. So you've encompassed everything.
Not everything. You know, I got a few things on that bucket list. I got a few more things.
From what you're telling me, you've got it pretty much under control. But anyway, Max here is telling me we've got about 5 minutes left. So what would you want to tell our viewers?
Well, all I want to say to the viewers, one, it's never too late. If you have a dream, a desire, don't look at your age, because let's be clear, a lot of this didn't happen for me a couple of years ago, and I'm considered a senior. So, you know, you have a dream, follow your dream, follow your heart, and do not allow fear to take your faith.
Exactly. And you know what? You just gave me a thought. We're in the process of planning out the 2026 pageant. I think we're going to do it late September next year. You've got to come and speak at that pageant, because so many of these, we have women of all different ages, but it would just be great for a lot of even these young girls to know what you have and the fragrance, and you could be a judge, so you'd be fantastic.
I would love to. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I appreciate you so much, and I will send you that body wash.
Oh, absolutely. So, Ms. Carnetta, it was a pleasure to have you on. I've learned so much. And anytime you want to come back on the show, if you're launching a new project, you let me know. You've got an open invitation to be here.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, dear, and have a great week. And if I don't speak to you before then, happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed Dr. Carnetta Frazier, the Rich Queen, and she's been absolutely amazing. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Make Our World Your Runway. We will be back next week with another fabulous show. And if we don't see you, we want to wish all our viewers a very early happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much again. We'll see you soon.